So this is the diamond matrix. I hope you'll come with me as we journey through the diamond matrix to learn about the different aspects, their interconnections, and how this becomes a living dynamic system that you can adopt, make it part of your life in your life journey from here on forward. What I want to do is talk to you about, I guess, a philosophical concept, sort of a construct that I developed over the years based on my training in various different areas of medicine. And what this construct actually does is it kind of gives you a platform and a living structure, if you will, that you can actually use to help you optimize your health. And there are various different points that are coming to play, and I'm going to be talking, giving you some ideas of how they are, what they are, and how they actually interrelate to help you become a healthier person. So when we talk about health, when we think about health, there are a few obvious things that come to mind. One of the first things we talk about and think about is eating well, nutrition. We're inundated with different kind of diet plans on TV. Every time you go on the internet, there's something there. Somebody's talking about a different diet. You got the keto diet, you got that diet, you got, beach diet or Mediterranean diet, and so many different diets. And people go from one diet to another and try all these things, and often they realize, some diets work and most of them don't because you don't know how to stick with that. But the underlying concept of those diets is nutrition. So the question is, if you do a certain diet, that's fine. It may help you lose some weight, but what is the price you're paying? Are you paying the price of missing nutrition just in order to lose weight? So that is really not a very good goal because you may lose weight, but as you go back and start to replenish the nutrients your body is missing, probably you're going to gain that weight back, and this is kind of typically what happens with a lot of these yo-yo diets. So the idea is not to necessarily diet, but to come up with a nutritional plan that is for you, that sustains you through the long term. And that's what really the basis of health is from the nutritional point of view. And understanding how different foods work and how different aspects of nutrition, including vitamins and minerals, and how they all come into play, that's one area. So there are a lot of different aspects like this that come into play in terms of achieving health. And so the construct that I'm going to show you right now has to do with defining those points and really kind of showing you how they actually are connected, interconnected, and interrelated with each other, and forms really a dynamic living system, because we are living dynamic beings, and this living dynamic system really helps you focus on different aspects, and you can actually use this system to optimize and enhance your health. So let's get started. So as I said, what's the first thing that we talk about when we're thinking about health? It's nutrition. So I create a little circle and put an N there to emphasize the area of nutrition. So nutrition is very complicated. It's not just diet. Of course, when you have diet, you have different types of food, from carbohydrates to proteins to fats, and there's so many different theories of what is a healthy diet. So the question really has to do with, how do you actually keep healthy and still lose weight and actually enhance your health? So food is number one. So that is one big area. And then often we talk about how the food in our society is not optimized because of the depletion of nutrients in the soil. So even though you grow different vegetables, the vegetables are taking up nutrients in the soil. If the soil is depleted of essential minerals and things like that, the vegetables grow, but their content is actually not that optimized and healthy. So that comes the idea of supplements. A lot of people believe in supplements of various different types, vitamins, minerals, and they all play an extremely important role in our bodies. The question has to do with how do you get them? Is it better to get it in the food? Or is it better to get it in the supplements because they're concentrated? So that's a big topic that we can talk about later, but those are the two main areas in nutrition that we all talk about, and then we try to follow and optimize. So your natural food and diet, of course there are many different types, and I can spend an hour just on diet alone in terms of exploring the different aspects of carbohydrates, fats, and proteins, and how they balance each other and how one affects the other. So we're going to leave that for a later time. And then comes the effect of vitamins and minerals and how they affect the food you take and how your body uses those chemicals, vitamins and minerals, among other things, to actually enhance your metabolism to create energy for you and so you can function as a person. So that's the idea of nutrition and how to actually do that, and that's an idea we're going to be exploring later. Next part is you can eat all the healthy foods you want. In fact, a lot of people do. That's great, but if that's all you do and do nothing else, then the body can only do so much. We're human beings. We have multiple joints and bones and muscles and ligaments. So we're designed to move. We're born to move. And I think we all know that. So the idea of nutrition is great, but the thing is, what do you do with the nutrition? You have to move. So the idea of creating what I call an optimal lifestyle is really, really important. You have to know exercise. You don't have to be overly exercising or whatever. And there are different philosophies of what is the optimal degree of exercising. From just purely running to aerobics to weightlifting, combination. There's so many different types that we know, and there's so many programs out there that you can find on the internet and whatnot. But regardless of all that, the idea has to do with a lifestyle. What kind of exercise do you do? How much? To what intensity? And what different types of things? Do you always just run, lift weights? Or can you do things like Pilates or yoga or other types of exercise regimen that may be more conducive for people with maybe joint pains and other things? And some people just cannot lift weights, but they still need to exercise. So regardless of the form of exercise and activity, the fact that you actually have an active type of lifestyle, even if it's mild. So playing sports, even playing tennis, bicycling, some people climb walls, they swim, they all have different passion for doing certain type of exercises or sports. All those things come into fall into the idea and the category of what I call lifestyle. So you want to really optimize your lifestyle to be as productive, as mobile, and that actually enhances the health of your joints, your muscles. And as you get older, there's something called sarcopenia, which is actually loss of muscle mass as you get older. So exercising and lifting weights combined with proper nutrition actually helps you preserve the muscle mass so you can still retain your strength and mobility as you get older. So apart from those two other things, and then third part, it has to do with sort of a modern trend and modern technologies in another area. And I call that regenerative medicine. Okay, so let's put another circle here, put an R here. Okay, regenerative medicine. So this is more of a modern concept of how to actually optimize health. So this has to do with things like cellular medicine. I'm sure some of you have heard of something called PRP, which is called platelet-rich plasma. This is actually cells that are derived from your own body. And what's interesting is that if you actually take that out of your blood, concentrate it and inject it into joints and muscles and ligaments, it actually helps you regenerate and help heal because those cells recruit growth factors from your own body and actually stimulate stem cells. And stem cells themselves are actually part of us. There's tremendous amount of stem cells in bone marrow, of course, but there's actually 10 times more of that per volume in your fat tissue. Probably some of you didn't know that, but your fat is a huge deposit of stem cells, and they have the various different roles in terms of how you actually heal and literally regenerate and regrow some tissue and heal all the damages that are happening every day of life. So those are two bases of regenerative medicine. There are many different layers of that, and we can spend more time talking about that in the near future. Another area that is really, really important that most people don't really think about very often is what I call emotional and spiritual health. Let's just put an E here, okay? And this has to do with a more philosophical idea of what is your place in life? What is your place in the universe? What is your relationship with yourself, with your close, people, your spouse, your children, your immediate family? Then you have the secondary family, your cousins and aunts and uncles and things like that. Then you have your neighbors and friends, then your co-workers, and of course then you have other people around the city and town, and then of course the rest of the world. And some people can even go as far as, what is my place in the universe? Okay, so having that idea of sense of belonging, the sense that you actually have a significance, even though you're a single human being in this huge universe, that there is that effect of you, your energy, and the kind of things that you think about it and do, that all comes into the idea of emotional and spiritual health. Spirituality, of course, has to do with religion. Some people who are not necessarily religious, they have their own idea of spirituality, and how all that falls into the idea of the, sort of a belongingness and the sense of self, and the significance of your own self, not only with yourself, but with your surroundings and the greater universe as well. So having a very healthy sense of that, sense of emotional stability and having centered, and then a solid relationship with yourself and the world is tremendously important. And this kind of sort of forms a foundation of the 4 parts that are really, really important sort of as a core principle to give you some sense of building block of becoming healthy. So I'm going to put some lines that interconnect these because they're all tied together and interrelated, okay? And then at the bottom of all this is sort of the foundation of much of what we talk about, and I call that brain health. Okay, so this is a little different than emotional health. So brain health is more about organic health. The brain is the most complex organ in your body, with billions and billions of cells, trillions of connections. It really is amazingly complicated, and we don't really know half of it, not even half, maybe a tiny little fraction, and how the brain works and why the brain does what it does. So brain health really is tremendously important. So that's why I put this on the bottom, because this really is the foundation for everything that we're talking about. So obviously you need good nutrition to have a healthy brain. You want to eat the right foods. We all know there are different types of foods like sugar that are very inflammatory, and that's very bad for the brain. Certain proteins and the healthy fats optimize and help the brain as well. Of course, lifestyle and exercise are tremendously important and support the brain. And then we just talked about emotional health and how that is tied to the brain as well. Regenerative medicine, in terms of stem cells and all those kind of things, come into play as well from a more modern approach to the brain health. There's a lot of research going on in terms of stem cells and different biologic agents that actually have an effect on problems like dementia, Alzheimer's disease, even neurological diseases like MS. There's a lot of research going on. They actually even have patients who actually recovered and done well with stem cell treatments for these problems too. So the regenerative medicine definitely has a very strong role to play. So once you set all this up, you start to feel pretty good. And natural tendency, once we start to feel good, is we want to match how we look with how we feel. This is very natural. We as human beings are actually very vain. Men are just as vain as women. We don't try to show it as well, but in nature, all the male animals are a lot more bright and colored and more strutting and things like that than female counterparts, which is very interesting. In humans, we tend to be sort of the opposite. Women tend to have more makeup and more colorful dresses and whatnot, but internally, the vanity still persists in both whether you're male or female. So up on top, I put this up on top, and I call that aesthetic health, aesthetic medicine or cosmetic medicine, where when you start to feel good, you want to look good. There are many of us, myself certainly included, all of a sudden you look in the mirror and you realize, wow, where did this come from? I didn't have this wrinkle before, or I have so many lines and changes in my skin, and this is losing hair. So many things going on, and we kind of realize that that's the part of the progression of time. And then we have different ways of helping. Regenerative medicine, certainly cellular technique for aesthetics is very, very popular. Emotional health certainly enhances and enhanced by the aesthetics. And of course, if you're not very healthy, eating poor foods, you're not going to be looking good. I often see patients coming in for things like Botox and fillers and other cosmetic and aesthetic procedures. When I look at them, I can tell immediately just by looking at their skin, just by the appearance, kind of their overall state of health. And we know this. We know people who are exuberant and just full of vitality, and just by looking at them, they're very, very healthy. And there are some people who's been ill, recovering, just by looking at them, they're kind of ill, tired, and physically they're not doing well, and it's reflected on their face and their skin and their body tone. So outer appearance definitely do reflect your inner health. That's why the A is tremendously important. So that forms the outer, structure, so the lattice and the framework. But the most important thing is actually in the middle. Okay, this is the most important thing. This is actually the force that drives everything, and it is called sexual health. Okay, this is the power and the impetus behind so much, pretty much everything that we do. The idea of sexuality. And I have so many patients coming in, men, because they're growing older and they have difficulty achieving erections called erectile dysfunction, something called andropause. As your testosterone falls, your body starts to change, and all the masculinity that you're used to when you're younger just becomes depleted, and you start to have different changes. Same thing with women. We all know about menopause. Estrogen, progesterone falls, and testosterone in women fall as well. So they have those issues. So all the hormonal things affect the sexual health as the most important initial criteria. But so many other things, like emotional health and lifestyle, nutrition, everything affects the sexuality. And this really becomes the focal point of everything we do. So that's why it's actually in the center. And it's all connected with everything else. Okay, so this really is the division. So just, you can kind of think of an example yourself. If you're not exercising very well, you're totally out of shape, very difficult to have very active sex life. I'm sure there are many of you who manage that, which is great. If you're emotionally distraught, depressed, anxious, have PTSD and other issues going on, very difficult to think about having an active and productive sex life as well. Aesthetics, of course, I think enhances the attraction for sexuality, and it can talk about regenerative medicine to affect problems like andropause and things like menopause as well, and even treating things like erectile dysfunction as well as female pelvic problems as well. So there's a lot of research and a lot of technology available to enhance that. Of course, we know about nutrition and brain. If your brain is not functioning well, it's going to be hard for you to have sex as well. So this is the combination of the 7 points that I feel are tremendously important and vital. If you take one of them away, the whole thing falls apart because everything is interconnected. If you take lifestyle away, then you actually have a hole here because you have to have active lifestyle to enhance everything else. If you take emotional health away, then the lack of emotionality affects everything else as well. So this is a really tight, constructed interlace of all the 7 points that I think are tremendously important and really vital to have and optimize in order for you to fully optimize your health and well-being and progress into a healthier older age. So this is something that I developed based on my training and work, and I call this Diamond Matrix. And so this is the construct, the actual diagram that kind of shows the interrelationship between these 7 points, how important they are, and they're completely integrated and interlaced, and one is not any more vital than the other, but we have the central driving force called sexual health that actually drives all of these and kind of forces us to go and optimize these functions. So if you actually have an issue with sexuality, or if you have an issue with emotional health, it's not going to be just dealing with that issue. We'll be looking at, what is your lifestyle? What is your regenerative medicine status? How is your brain functioning? What is your nutritional status? All of these things will have to be evaluated to fully understand the nature of your emotional imbalance, let's say, and also help you regain that equilibrium and the harmony that you're missing because of that problem. Same thing with brain health, and everything points to the brain as the foundation. So if the brain is out of balance, it's not just the brain itself. How are you doing with emotion? What can we use the regenerative medicine technology to help you? Certainly, we'll be looking at nutrition and lifestyle, to help you figure out how can we do, what things we can do to further enhance brain health and vice versa. So you can, as you go through this, for every little ball or point of discussion, you'll be able to figure out how one is affected by the other and how this specific point affects everything else. So this is called Diamond Matrix. It's a construct and a system of overall health and optimized health that I've developed over the years. And I'll be discussing each ball in different lectures as they come up, exploring different parts of it in greater detail. The idea for this is really not only the sort of a philosophical idea of how you become healthier, but really a living dynamic system with which you can live and use the system to really optimize your health overall.